welcome back to Book Break, and get ready to have your summer reading list sorted. I am about to tell you about so many exciting new books coming out this year from your favourite authors. We asked you guys on our community tab which books you were most anticipating from your favourite authors, so we've included some of your answers in here as well as some that you might not know about yet. And I'm actually going to kick off, just because I am so nice to you, with two books that are out now that you can go and buy the second you've finished watching this video, just so that I'm not leaving you completely in anticipation. There are two books you can read today if you want to. So starting with When I Was 10 by Fiona Cummins. Fiona Cummins is a terrifying author. She has previously written The Neighbour, which was a standalone thriller, as well as the Bone Collector series, Rattle and the Collector, all very dark, very disturbing, and this latest book is no different. When I Was 10 is about this infamous double murder that took place 20 years ago, and now in present day we are looking back on what really happened that night through the perspectives of one of the murdered couple's two daughters and her childhood best friend. It is very dark, as you would expect. It's about murder and abuse and secrets. And another one you can read today is Sorrowland by Rivers Solomon, the author of An Unkindness of Ghosts and most famously The Deep. So all of their books are very genre bending, and this latest one, Sorrowland, is kind of literary fantasy meets body horror meets gothic fiction. It's about a woman who gives birth to twins in the woods and raises them completely away from the influence of the outside world, but then her body starts to metamorphosize, and the book kind of delves through that into the history of dehumanization and medical experimentation and genocide. All these monsters in history that aren't individuals but systems and even entire nations. Okay, next some books that are coming out this month, so you don't have too long to wait. I am clutching my proof here of Circus of Wonders by Elizabeth McNeil, the author of The Doll Factory. And Elizabeth McNeil is just incredible at bringing to life time and place. And this book is set in the circus, so I can't wait to see what she does with that setting. The story here is about a girl who is sold by her father to the circus. She is dubbed the Leopard Girl because of the very distinctive birthmarks on her skin, and the press completely adore her. But this book questions who gets to tell her story. Sci-fi fans will be very excited to get their hands on Shards of Earth by Adrian Tchaikovsky. He has a huge sci-fi back catalogue, and Shards of Earth is the first in a new trilogy, the Final Architecture series. So this is a super high-stakes space adventure set 80 years after Earth was destroyed by an alien enemy. Millions died, but amongst the survivors, humans created this kind of enhanced human, such as our main character Idris, who had the ability to communicate telepathically with the alien enemy, until the enemy completely disappeared and Idris and his kind became obsolete. But now in the book, they have just found something abandoned in space that leads them to believe the enemy is returning, and it becomes this epic adventure race across the galaxy to find out why they're coming back. And of course in May we are also getting Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Taylor Jenkins Reid also has a pretty long back catalogue, but most famously and most beloved on BookTube, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones and the Six. And this book is set in that same shared universe. It's about the children of Mick Reaver, who was one of Evelyn Hugo's 7 husbands. So on one hot day in August 1983, the Reaver children are planning their annual end of summer party, this infamous star-studded event. But this time we know that by morning the Reaver mansion will have gone up in flames. So we've got two timelines here. It's partly told all on this one day, but then we also get flashbacks to the lives of the Reaver children growing up and even back into the generations before them. And then one more in May, we're getting The Baby Is Mine by Oyinkan Braithwaite, the author of My Sister the Serial Killer. I loved that one. It was a thriller, or kind of more a dark literary novel, and The Baby Is Mine is coming out as part of the Quick Reads programme, so it's very short, it's just 120 something pages. And honestly, this one sounds darker than My Sister the Serial Killer. It's about Bambi, who is kicked out of his girlfriend's house during the pandemic and goes to stay with his aunt. When he gets there, he finds that both she and another woman are claiming to be the mother of this baby boy. And from there, it just gets even creepier. We have a blackout, we have blood stains appearing on the wall, marks on the baby's cheek, and someone is lying. Okay, now looking to June, another proof I have been squealing about, I've got here Yours Cheerfully by A.J. Pierce, which is the sequel to Dear Mrs. Bird. Dear Mrs. Bird was set in wartime London, and it's about a girl called Emmeline Lake who gets a job working for Mrs. Bird, this formidable agony aunt. And now we have a sequel. Emmy Lake is stepping into the role of wartime advice columnist herself. And then she and her best friend Bunty meet a young woman who shows them the very real challenges a lot of female war workers are facing. So the book is really a testament to female strength, to friendship, and I think it's going to be every bit as heartwarming as the first book, which is just what we all need right now. We're also getting Black Water Sister by Zen Cho. So Zen Cho is a fantasy romance author, maybe most notably of the Sorcerer to the Crown series. And Black Water Sister is a new standalone that is already getting so much buzz. So this book follows Jessamine, who is going on a trip back home to Malaysia, a home that she hasn't seen since she was a toddler, and she finds herself completely unprepared for its ghosts, its goddesses, and life with her very eccentric family. And Jess also starts hearing a voice in her head, a very bossy voice in her head, who turns out to be the ghost of her late grandmother, who before she died swore revenge on a business magnate who insulted the Blackwater sister, the goddess that she worshipped. And she's now decided she is going to use Jess to enact her revenge, and Jess doesn't get a say in it. Historical fiction fans will be very excited about Mrs. England by Stacey Halls, the author of The Foundling and The Familiars. So this is the next one for your collection. It's about a young governess who discovers that all is not what it seems with the couple she has just started working for, particularly with the beautiful, mysterious Mrs. England. So it's got all of the slow burn, simmering menace under the surface that characterises Stacey Hall's writing. And then a new book from Akwaeke Emezi, who is the author of 3 critically acclaimed novels, Pet, Freshwater, and The Death of Vivek Oji. This one, Dear Centurion, is their first non-fiction. It's a memoir. They describe it as a black spirit memoir. So this is all about Emezi's creative emergence into the world. It's about their decisions about gender and their body, their path to success as a writer, and it's told through these candid conversations with friends and lovers and family to really trace their journey through life. And then one more for June, The Maidens by Alex Michaelidis, who is the author of The Silent Patient. This one is another thriller. It sounds quite dark academia-esque this time. It sounds very reminiscent of The Secret History. This one is about a charismatic professor at Cambridge University, a group of female classics students, and Mariana, a therapist who becomes convinced that the professor is guilty of murder. So it's got that therapy link to The Silent Patient if you loved that. Okay, looking to July, I know that horror fans will be very excited about The Final Girls support group by Grady Hendrix, who is the author of books like Horror Store, the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, My Best Friend's Exorcism, and other iconic horror novels that are raved about on BookTube. They all seem way too gory for me, even this cover freaks me out, but I know that horror fans are very, very excited. This one is about a group of final girls, survivors of real-life events that were turned into massive horror film franchises. But then even after the world has moved on, the spotlight has gone from them, these women still sit in a support group in a circle of chairs in a church basement, trying to figure out what to do with their lives. In August, we're getting As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson, which is book number 3, the final book in the Good Girls Guide to Murder series, which is a YA mystery thriller series. These books are perfect for fans of true crime podcasts. It's all about that kind of investigation turned obsession. So the series follows Pip, who in the first book starts digging into this tragic murder-suicide that took place in her hometown 5 years earlier, and uncovers some secrets. And then in book 2, she turns this investigation into a podcast, and trouble just keeps following her. And now for the final book, Pip's investigation turns personal. She might become the next victim. So there was a bunch of super exciting books to see you through the whole of summer, but I also wanted to leave you with a sneak peek into some books coming even further ahead. In November, look out for Never by Ken Follett. Ken Follett is another author with a huge back catalogue ranging across loads of genres, but this is going to be his first contemporary novel in over a decade. It's going to be this really high-stakes thriller about a world inching closer to an unprecedented global crisis. And then in 2022, I cannot wait for To Paradise by Hanya Yanagihara. She is the author of The People in the Trees and the mega sensation that was A Little Life. And this newest book is going to be just as bold as those last 2 books were, and more so. This one is going to span 3 centuries and 3 alternate versions of America in 1893, 1993 and 2093. I think it's going to be absolutely huge. Probably literally. We do know that Hanya Yanagihara does love a long book. So do let us know which books you are most excited for, and if you want even more recommendations like this, I will link to a video we made at the end of last year talking about the books we were most anticipating in 2021. So some of those will now be out, you can buy them now, and some will be even more for your ever-growing wish lists. See you next time!